Today, I want to talk about how I've sucked as a horse person. So, let's get started. So bad. Hey guys, my name's Katie. Welcome to my channel Horse Talk. If you're new here, make sure to like, share, and subscribe. You can also check out my Instagram. I share cute pictures of the horses and stuff on there. I haven't done a ton on that yet, but I'm really looking forward to get that moving as well. So if you're interested, check out my Instagram. Today's topic is all about myself, how I've sucked as a horse person. I am going to give you guys some detailed information about my horsemanship journey and basically my riding story, where I started, how I started, the horses that I've ridden, and the horses that kind of defined my life. So let's get started. Starting at the very beginning, I really do not recall the first time I ever sat on a horse. I just grew up around horses. I've had them my whole life, and I don't remember a day without them, to be completely honest. I have never really, other than being gone on vacation and things like that, I've never had a day where my horse wasn't at my house. So I think that's been very beneficial to myself as a horse person, very advantageous, because I was able to constantly learn and interact with my animals. So I think that makes a big difference if you're able to do that. I think that there's a lot that you can learn in the day-to-day care of horses that you kind of miss out if you have to board your horse. So if you can, I always encourage to keep your horse at home if you can and if you're able. Let's see, the first pony that my parents ever bought for me, her name was Smokey. She was a little tiny Shetland pony with a flaxen mane and tail. She was gray, dapple gray. She was absolutely adorable. And so my parents got her for me and my sister, and we had her for quite a long time. I think we got her when I was around 4 or so, and I rode the tail off that pony. I rode her pretty much everywhere that I could, whenever I could. Loved on her, hung out with her. She was just a great little pony, and I got bucked off of that little pony all the time. All the time I got bucked off of her. She was just kind of a little stinker. The best story with that pony was one time I decided I was going to ride along the fence line of the big horses, and that was not really such a great idea. My sister was following behind me on a bike, and I was riding the pony, and then the herd of horses got all excited and started running and bucking and stuff, and then the pony took off running and bucking with them, and I of course fell off. And so I took the bike from my sister and I went pedaling after that pony. Oh, that was a funny day. I'll never forget that day. But yeah, so that pony liked to buck me off all the time, and you know, I learned a lot from that pony about grit and hanging in there and riding through things. So she was a great first pony for me. Then after her, I really don't recall who I rode primarily. I pretty much rode whatever was available. My dad had started breeding horses, so we had always had lots of horses around, and I rode pretty much whatever I could. I rode the original Festus quite a bit, and then I rode a horse named Sheena. And when I was in 3rd grade, I started riding that horse, and she was 3 years old. So looking back on that, red flags, right? Like, that probably wasn't the best combination, but you know, she was a really solid horse, and my dad figured I was safe on her. But lo and behold, inexperienced rider, inexperienced horse creates accidents. So I fell off of Sheena, and I got my nerve shook a lot from that. And then once I finally got up the nerve to ride her again, I fell off of her again. And actually, luckily I was wearing a helmet, because I hit the side of my head off the deck of our house at the time and cracked that helmet. And I was fine, luckily, because I had the helmet on, but that really rattled me as well. So then I went about another 6 to 8 months without riding horses, and that really was hard on me. I can even remember still the pain of not riding a horse, I remember it like from all those years ago, like how devastating that was to me to not be able to ride my horses and being scared of them. Like it really was heartbreaking for me. So then after that, my mom, like that following spring, so I was about 4th grade, however old that is, like, I don't know, how old is that, 8, 9? And my mom convinced me to ride the original Festus. And so I started riding her, and then you couldn't keep me off that horse. I rode her wherever I could, whenever I could. Whoever would ride with me, I talked him into it. If I had a day where I didn't ride, I remember just being like devastated that I couldn't ride that day. So then when I was about, I want to say about 12, 13 years old, I decided that I wanted to take riding lessons. So I started taking English riding lessons specifically. Hi. And so I started taking English riding lessons with our family friend. Her name was Eileen. And that was really kind of like a big deal for me. That was when I really started to learn, oh hey, there's a lot more to horses than just sitting here. Like there's a lot more to learn, and that really kind of jump-started my whole, I really want to learn more, I want to know so much. So that started that. And after that first summer of taking riding lessons, the following summer, so I was about 14, I went to my first riding camp. And this was a week-long camp, and I made one of my lifelong friends at that camp. Her name's Corey, and together we pretty much rode as many horses as we possibly could on that farm. There was 60 horses on that farm, and we tried to ride so many of them, and that was a huge confidence builder for me. And I was able to do more and ride more horses after that camp because I learned that, hey, it's okay, like I've got this, I can figure it out. So I was able to go into this. Did you just try to bite me? I think she just tried to bite me. So anyway, now I'm gonna have to start paying attention. So I went into this riding camp in this herd of 60 horses, and I had to catch my own horse. They're like, here you go, here's a halter, go find your horse. So that was a huge confidence builder for me. So after I came back from that camp, there pretty much wasn't a horse that I wouldn't ride. Hi. Thank you. I really don't want your grain. So that was like I said, that was like the best experience for me because it gave me so much confidence. I gotta go find my dogs. So like I was saying, that riding camp was a huge confidence boost for me. And then I went back. All right, so then when I got home from that camp, I went into our herd of horses, and there basically wasn't a horse that I wouldn't ride. I pretty much rode everything that I could, and it didn't matter to me anymore. It really boosted my confidence, riding all those different horses and learning to jump and doing all these different things and riding bareback more, and it was really an awesome experience. So then when I got home from that camp, I started riding a horse named Rosie, and that was Festus's grandma, so it's Nikki's mom. And that horse, I absolutely loved that horse. She was such a good girl, and she did whatever I asked of her. She tried her hardest to do whatever I asked of her. And the following summer, I went back to that camp again for the second year, and I brought Rosie with me, and we learned so much, and I excelled so much further, and it was really just a great experience. And then Blair, stay here. Stay here. At that point, I had been getting quite a bit of education and really strived to learn more and took advantage of every lesson that I had there. And really after that summer, I tried to find people to ride with and people to get lessons from, and I did a lot that summer. And then we went into the show season and everything, and that was great, and that was pretty much it from the time I was 15, 16. So then when I turned 17, not turned 17, when I was going into my senior year of high school, I was lucky enough to get an internship at a riding facility. Like, how great is that? Like, when you're a senior in high school and your entire morning from 8 a.m. till noon, you just get to go ride horses. Like, that could be no better. And I learned about barn management and things like that and how to run a business. And that was just the greatest experience too, because again, pretty much like the lesson horses that were naughty, I would ride and work some things out with them as best as I could. And it was really just a lot of fun. And at that facility is where I found my horse Special. So let's go over to Special. All right, so this is my horse. Oh, she's running away. This is my horse Special in this stall. That's Willow over there. This is Special. Hi. So when most kids are taking out a loan to get a car, I took out a loan to get a horse. So this is Special. She is 22 years old now. She is an appendix quarter horse, and she is a little over 16 hands, and I learned a lot from this horse. So when you go, and she's mostly thoroughbred, she's like 3/4 thoroughbred and just a little bit of quarter horse. So when you go from like an Appaloosa to a thoroughbred, like that's a big change in horsepower. Like, and all of our horses, what are you doing? And all of our Appaloosas are pretty laid back. And Special was very like, yay, let's go. I'm so excited. And she was so forward. So it was a huge change for me. And Special really made a big impact in my life. But now as far as really the advancement of my riding, she's a really good example. So you know, when you're like 17, you think you know quite a bit, and I really didn't know anything. Special does not pick up collection very well. Special is, she hates being in a stall. She's super anxious about that, as you can tell. She has wonderful ground manners. I lunged her a lot. Like I would lunge her for like 15 minutes before I got on her every time. That's not something that I would do now. I do more like groundwork where you're actually like, with lunging, I kind of feel like you're just running your horse around in circles and not really accomplishing anything unless you have a bunch of gimmicks attached to them, but that's for another video. We'll talk about that later. So really like I was big into like the English like hunter jumper world, and I was going for that collection, but I feel like I really created a hard mouth on this horse because of that. And if you don't know what that means, it's kind of like where she'll pull through the bit, or she'll like, you pick up on the bit and there isn't any softness there. It's just a constant like pull. She's really hard-mouthed, so because of the way that I rode, and it's 100% my fault. I mean, she is who she is because she is who I was at 17, and I did the majority of the training on her. She had been, I was told she was cowboy trained, whatever that means, for 30 days when I had gotten her, and then when she came to that riding facility where I bought her from, I was pretty much the only one who ever rode her because everybody there was scared of her because, I mean, she's a pretty big girl and she's a little excitable. So people were pretty intimidated by her. So I got to ride her lots. It worked well for me, and then I bought her. So that's Special. So she is my teenage horse where you can tell the things that I messed up. She's a super good girl though. She's got a heart of gold. She's a really good horse and she has a lot of try. And I definitely would never take back having owned her. And I love her dearly. She's a good girl. I gotta go find my dogs again. When I had had Special for several years, I decided I wanted an Appaloosa sport horse. So at the time, we had a really nice Appaloosa stallion. His name was Arrow, and I bred Special to him, and I got Sparrow. Special, Arrow, Sparrow. Get it? Yeah. That was my husband's idea. Pretty funny. So this is Sparrow. Sparrow is half appendix quarter horse and half Appaloosa. She is a really good girl. About 17 to about 22, I gave riding lessons pretty consistently to younger kids, and I basically just did like walk trot stuff like This is how you brush a horse. This is how you lead a horse. Those types of things with kids. And I got a decent foundation on them. And then the ones that could canter, I would build them up to the canter, and then I would pass them on to more advanced riding instructors. And I did that for quite a few years, and I really enjoyed that. And at that time as well, basically, any problem horse in the area, people would call me and say, hey, can you come ride this horse? Hey, can you come work out this horse? And things like that. And I would go work with their horses and see what I could do to help. And I still do quite a bit of that today, and I really enjoy that. I love helping people and figuring out problems, and I really do enjoy that. Doing that full-time was my main career. Like, that's what I would have loved to do, but I never really got that far. So then I kind of got, after I had my daughter, I got pretty selfish with my riding time. Like, I was like, okay, I can't give riding lessons anymore because I just don't have time to ride myself. I really want to ride my own horses because I was young, and I didn't, like, I would bring my daughter to the barn with me and everything like that, but I was, you know, relatively young, and I did not want to share my riding time with anybody. So that kind of like stopped with my forward momentum with my riding lesson program, and that's kind of where it fizzled off, and I'm kind of okay that it did. I like where I'm at now, where I can just, you know, casually help people when they need it, or do more when they need more and things like that. It works out really well. And because you know, that's just the way my path went. And so during this selfish period of time where I didn't want to share my riding time with anyone else other than, you know, obviously I'd put my daughter on her horse and things like that, but I pretty much just rode hell-bent for leather. Okay, so Sparrow was about 1, 2, 3, we'll say. Between her ages of 1 and 3, I had a horse named King, and he was an amazing quarter horse, and he loved to go. He loved to run, he loved to do stuff and be out on the trails. So really during that time, I just trail rode. Like, I rode and rode and rode and rode, and I ran hell-bent for leather, and that's just pretty much what I did at those years. Like, I just, when I went out to the barn, I wanted to ride my horse and be done with it. So I kind of relapsed in my education quite a bit during that stage, and I didn't really relapse, but I didn't have any more forward momentum. So then once it came time for her to be trained, I was kind of like, oh, I'm stuck. I've got this toddler, and I've got a toddler horse. I need help, and in comes Brandy.
She always heard about me at once.
Aw, good girl.
And then it was just...
Now Brandy, like I said, I had a toddler horse, I had a toddler child, and I needed help. I didn't have time to train her between working, raising my kid, managing the farm, and all the other things that I was doing at the time. So I took advantage of getting a trainer, and I went with Brandy. And Brandy at that time had already trained 3 of our horses for my mom, Rain, Blazer, and Nikki. And so I was really excited about it, and Brandy put, I think, 30 or 60 days on her. I'm not really sure. Probably more like 60. She had her for a decent portion of the summer, and that was great. And when I got her back, I was really excited. I went to riding her right away, and I was like, wow, this horse moves a little differently. Like, what's going on here? So then I started to like question things. I'm like, okay, what am I doing wrong? And figuring things out. And I'm like, no. So then I would call her and I'd be like, well, how did you do this? Or I'd text her and I'd be like, how'd you do that? And that really started spurring my want of education again. So then at that point, I had spent a ton of time on Sparrow and working with her and all these things, and then I was working with Nikki as well at the same time, and Nikki was even more advanced in Sparrow. So I was like, well, wow, how did you do that? and I started spending a lot more time with Brandy and learning from her. And then when Danny, my daughter, was 3 years old, she started taking riding lessons with Brandy. So when Danny would have her riding lessons with Brandy, I would go with, and I would start learning and asking questions and riding with. And Brandy is the type of person that wants to share knowledge, and so if you got a question, you'll be dang sure she'll get an answer, and if she doesn't know it, she's gonna figure it out for you. And so she's been a great person to have in my life and to be able to work with horses with, because she's taught me a ton. She's really, and she opened my eyes back up to education, like, oh wow, I could be doing so much better than this. And so that was a great time in my life. And so that was pretty much Sparrow. So Sparrow, I didn't really, she's been trail ridden a ton. I've done a lot of arena work with her, and she's really kind of just hung out kind of as my spare horse. Now I had originally wanted to breed her for, or I wanted her for jumping, and that just kind of never really panned out. When you end up having kids, you know, your life just changes a little bit and everything gets driven more towards them. So yeah, so when I started riding Sparrow primarily, then I got Danny a pony, and then my daughter just started riding more and more and more and more, and now you can't keep her off of a horse either. So I wanted to push so much education because I wanted things to be done in the right way the first time with her, and I really wanted a good solid education for her. So that's where we're at, and the timeline. So now moving on from Sparrow, well, let's back up. So now, moving on to the incident with Sparrow that really shook me up again. This was about probably, I think it was around 2010, so about 10 years ago. I was riding down the rail, and luckily in our sand arena at a canter, and Sparrow tripped somehow. I still am not certain to this day how she did it. She tripped and flipped over, like completely somersaulted, and landed right on top of me. So I just flipped with her, and then she landed on top of me, and I got up and I was okay, you know, the big adrenaline rush. And then I checked Sparrow over, the saddle over and everything, and I was like, okay, we're fine. And I just got back on, and away we went again. Well, lo and behold, the next day I was not quite so fine. I had injured my neck pretty good. It was just really stiff and sore and things like that. And you know, it healed up, whatever, moving on, not a problem. About 2012, I had a vertebral artery dissection in my neck, and that we assume was originally from, well, in a weakened state, I would say, from that original injury. So a vertebral artery runs up the side of your neck and into your brain. So my stroke risk was very high, and I was very fortunate that I was caught early enough that I was able to avoid all of that. But that being said, for 6 months I was not allowed to lift more than 5 pounds, and I was not allowed to do a lot of things. So that really shook me. So then that 6 months comes up. Danny's outgrowing her pony at this point, and I'm going, how am I gonna train a horse for her? I am scared. You know, when you also have a kid, you realize your own mortality, and that if something happens to you, what happens to your kid type of a thing, and you know, you just worry a little bit more. And so I was terrified, like, what am I gonna do? Been going to riding lessons with Danny and riding with her during the lessons and learning a ton. And I had a girl riding Sparrow, and I had a girl riding Special, so I started focusing primarily on Nikki, and then this is where even more of the education comes into play. All right, so Nikki, oh, look at her little face right here. Look at, like mother, like daughter. Look how cute they are. All right, so in enters Nikki. So Sparrow was kind of a reflection of my learning a little bit more, but not having quite enough yet. Like there's some things that she does that she could do better, that I, you know, could have done better on. So Sparrow is kind of my second step up from Special. She is a little bit softer. She is a little bit more responsive. She is a lot calmer, and I am able to work through things with her a little bit quicker without that anxiety and stress level building up. So then we have, hi, this is the new Festus. This is not Nikki. Nikki is right here. You can't really see her at the moment, but Nikki is a better example of my, well, a closer example of my writing now. She is a little bit, because so many, I gotta shut this door. Nikki is kind of a little bit closer to the reflection how I want to ride now. She is a little bit softer. She still has some tendency to not want to gather collection the way that I would like her to. She's a little bit slow to move off your leg and a little bit dull in those things. There's some things we're all working through, but she is 19 years old. So, you know, we're just plugging along at this point. You know, we keep working towards what we want, but she is also my favorite horse personality-wise. She is really from that line of horses that really, you know, really touched my heart. It's, you know, original Festus, Rosie, Nikki, new Festus. And these are the horses that I really have a deep connection with. So my hopes and my dreams for Festus is I really want her to be a good solid reflection of my years so far of education. I really want her to develop into a solid horse that anybody can ride and that will get along fine with anybody, but she will always be mine. I'm really excited for her future, and I'm really looking forward to begin working with her. I've got quite a few years to wait yet and things like that. She's not even a year old yet. But yeah, I'm super excited for her future and looking forward to every minute of working with her and learning more. And it'll be really interesting between her and Jewel to see how I progress with my horsemanship, and I'm really looking forward to that. Hi, Stinker. I love my horses. They're so good. After I had that injury and after I had been working with Brandy for a couple years, she convinced me to go to a Buck Brannaman clinic with her. And that was pretty life-changing for me as well. You know, I had learned a ton from Brandy and I continue to learn a ton from Brandy. And this Buck clinic, and at this Buck clinic, I really learned even more. So that really just fueled my need for more education even more. And so from there on, I've gone to a Buck clinic. I've ridden with Buck twice now, and I have audited 4 clinics with Buck. And I have ridden with Lee Smith. She is an amazing horsewoman as well. If you ever get a chance to ride with Lee or to audit a Lee Smith clinic, I suggest you do so. Same with Buck. If you ever get to ride with him or audit one of his clinics, definitely something to do. So between those 3 horse people, I feel like I've gained a ton of education and a better understanding of who I want to be as a horse person. So I guess that just preaches to my never-ending story of keep educating yourself, keep learning so that you can do better for your horse, and just always keep moving forward. Don't hide from your mistakes and don't let your mistakes define you. Let's talk about our mistakes. That's the only way we can learn. And let's talk about our successes. So I would love for you guys to comment down below and talk about some of your riding successes, some of your riding failures, and some of the things that you've done really well and some of the things that you've done not so well. I think it's a great conversation piece, and it's these types of things that we tend to want to hide from, our mistakes and our failures, that you know, if we talk about them, we're going to be so much better off because we are all going to learn from them. So, in conclusion, my riding story is far from perfect. I, just like everybody else, had my ups and downs and my battles and the things that I had to work through, and I, you know, all the while riding and having these horses, I was raising them and as a kid, and I've learned so much from that, sometimes to the detriment of my horses and sometimes to the benefit of my horses, because I've always continued to keep learning to do things better. So there's things that I've messed up on, and there is things that I've done well, I feel like. And like any of my horses, you can get on and go. And you don't have to, like, they can sit for 2 months and you can just hop on them and take off. And I think that that's really a big deal. Like, that says a lot about how much quality riding time they got. But at the same time, I know they're not perfect, but neither am I. And I love them anyway. And I am very high. Oh, see, and sometimes they're a little bit mouthy. This is actually my mom's fault because she gave her too many treats when she was younger. Yeah. And she just loves attention, yeah. Oh, I'm sorry. I don't have any food. So that's, anyway, derailed there. What was I saying? Oh, now your turn. Hi, stinker. That's me, that's my horses. That's a little bit of my riding story and where I'm at. So I think that's pretty much it for today. That's my riding story. Thanks for watching. I really appreciate it. I'd appreciate it if you enjoyed this video to make sure to like, share, and subscribe. Again, check out my Instagram if you're interested. I'm not so great at that yet, but I'm getting a little bit better. And thanks for watching. It's cold out. So you want to hear the worst thing ever? I had this video entirely filmed and I like totally like blanked on like 6 years of my life, and I had to like totally redo the video today. It was 50 degrees out yesterday when I filmed the video the first time, and it's like 28 degrees out now. So that was one of my mistakes for you. That was not a fun mistake. I was so upset when I realized that I screwed up. Yeah, kisses. Oh, careful. No. You're fogging up my glasses.